Hey there, so today I want to return to the wonderful world of comic books, and I want to talk about the 2018 year-end numbers because they showcase exactly where comic books are, and they say that bad practice in the short term, it's still making companies money, but in the long term, this is going to kill distribution, meaning local comic shops, and you know what? The industry, it doesn't care. At least on the outside, it doesn't, but when you look at the reaction from industry executives, from pros out there and on, they know what the game looks like. They know exactly how this stuff is working. And well, they're going out and they're trying to secure the blame on other people, namely consumers and other pros that are outside. Because if you can blame them, then you don't have to reflect inward and you don't have to blame self. Now, if you don't know anything about comic books, that's okay with this too. I'm going to go through and I'm going to explain it in a way that you can understand. That way you can see what kind of mess we're talking about here. So Diamond, if you know nothing about them, they are the lone distributor of comics. There used to be more back in the 1990s, but Marvel decided they were going to get in the game. They pretty much disrupted everything that led to one of the reasons that we had a huge crash in comic books back in the 1990s, and Diamond was the only company that emerged. Good thing about Diamond being there is the fact that we get numbers from them and we don't have to track down a bunch of other ones. Bad thing about Diamond, there's a lot of bad reasons for them. But initially, they put out the wrong numbers. And if you caught me talking about that, I was kind of irritated because you knew that they were wrong. They were talking about a 0.6% increase if you took comic books and graphic novels and put them together, and a 3.3% increase if you looked at money made off of just comic single issues. Now, you knew that had to be wrong because it would have tripled the amount that we saw from November to December. So you have the whole year running a certain way, and then boom, somehow in some way, numbers come in and they make everything all good. Well, apparently, that was all wrong. And Diamond finally, after getting a bunch of flack for it, decided they would go back and they would rectify this problem. Now, if you go in and you look at Diamond, they will release reports like this. It will tell you about market share. It would say retail and unit share. Basically, they're talking about dollars and they're talking about units. Then you'll have comparative sales statistics, and that's where you want to go. Now, something that is important to add on to this conversation, but is not included here, is the year 2017. To truly draw a picture of where you are and to see the decline from it, yeah, you have to see the picture there. So, if you're looking at the units move, these are single issues. You're talking about 10% decline there. And if you look at dollars made, again, from single issues, 10% decline. When you look at graphic novels, 9% decline in dollars. And if you look at all comics and graphic novels, you saw a 10% decline. So across the board, meaning dollars and units, you had a 10% decline there. Now, the industry's response to this could be many things. They could have gone out, they could have talked to shops about what's going on, asking what does or doesn't sell. They could go out and talk to consumers, see why they're walking away from an industry that has a growing market as far as movies go, but as far as comics are becoming more and more niche. What they did instead was close down so many ways that people could communicate with these companies. In fact, if you go out and look up articles coming from comic shops, they'll talk about 2017 for, say, a DC Comics. They'll say that was an award-winning year. DC actually got awards for the way that they handled things. 2018, those places that you could go and talk to people with DC, the reps there, they became ghost towns. You couldn't talk to anyone. Marvel, if you talked about their products, well, LCSs or local comic shops, they had a meeting where they came together at a Comic-Con. They talked about how a lot of this stuff would not sell. The media that is attached to comic book companies, you can imagine how they responded. They were so graceful and so poignant while calling those people racists and sexist. Yep, that's right. If your stores are dying, you can't move products, well, when you complain about it, you're a racist, you're a sexist, and on. Consumers, they're attacked too. We're attacked wholesale, and that does not ingratiate people to your product. Nope. What you do instead, instead of doing anything good, while doing all of that too, you raise prices. You can see that when you look at the year 2018 2018 to 2017, when you look at comics, which is single issues, you'll see an increase of 2% profit. Wow. But a negative 5.67% units. Now, if you go in, you can see this by the pricing point, and the highest pricing point ever was reached in 2018. Interestingly enough, it beat out 2017 pricing points where they were already raising prices. But this year, it is absolutely insane. So look at the 10 comic books that fell into the lead. Remember, the baseline buy-in these days for comics are $3.99. That's right. You're going to spend $4 to buy just any type of comic book unless you go to a company outside of this like an Alterna. And if you're interested in comics, definitely check them out. Great company, good customer service, decent people there. But if you look at that, there are only 2 comic books that fall into the $3.99 pricing. So you have 1, 2 here. If you look at $4.99, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, $5.99, 1, 2, $7.99. Number 1 comic book, $9.99. There's number 2 comic book. When you think about that, that says a lot too. When you make a 2% decline and you're moving these types of units, what it says, I mean, when you look at all of the units moved for certain comic books, it says number 1, comic book shops are taking that to the jaw, basically. You are killing them because you're raising prices and they can't return these products. If wholesale, a comic at $9.99, that means you probably have a $4 investment or more in that comic. I went to a comic shop that had 40 of those on the shelves. I counted them, 40 of them. Talking $160 there just for that one comic that they could not move. When you look at the unit numbers too, this is made up of variant covers. You'll see 20 to 40 covers produced, leaving comic book shops wondering, number 1, what are the actual sales? Because you can't see that here, so you don't know what true demand is. And number 2, if you want something, you don't know exactly what covers people will want. If you pick up the wrong ones, you end up with a lot of garbage stock. And then when you get into those exclusive variants, hey, buy 500 of this, you'll get a super exclusive variant. So, I mean, you see these predatory practices continuing. And of course, you saw that 2017 50 comic shop decline. Well, this has killed many more. You see 80 to 100 fall 2018. 2019, you may see that double. It looks like that already too. It looks like we are looking at numbers that are going to come in at 160 to 200. I would not be surprised. And that is a terrible setup. Considering, again, you're talking about going under 2,000 shops when that is your distribution method. You can see comic book companies trying to angle away instead of actually fixing that as well. They've been moving to places like Walmart. I saw a comic book that had only been out 2 months actually pop up in Walmart in one of those packs where you can buy 3 comics. Now, the problem with that idea is a comic book shop can't return a comic book, and they have about a 90-day window where you can actually sell something. Walmart, yeah, they can go and they can return those packs they don't sell. So comic book shops, they just get the shaft. And it says, hey, right here, we don't really care. Now, graphic novels, you'll notice that they have declined another 8.22% for dollars, 9.71% in units. So you're talking around a 20% decline when it comes to graphic novels. So you got a 16% decline for comic books, a 20% decline for graphic novels in 2 years. For total numbers, again, 16% across the board, and you have another year, again, with numbers like this reporting yet more loss. Now, what that says is your regular comic books, the comic books that pop up, on the lower end of that spectrum, they are not moving. And you see some of the vanity projects that are put out there, the ones that are basically a response to people saying, yeah, I would buy that. You saw Iceman, for example. Iceman was canceled last year after selling under 10,000 units, but it was brought back this year. And you know what? It's sold under 10,000 units already. It's already at a place that is terrible, and the comic book is written poorly. You see so much bad practice reflected in this, and yet the industry, it doesn't care. It doesn't care at all. Now, what this really says is that the mainstay retailers, they can actually afford this kind of stuff. You have them and intellectual properties. They can continue to make money without comic books. They have that intellectual property. Marvel, you see what they make off of movies. DC, but when you start going down the list, when you see those drop-offs, Image, you're talking about single creators. You know, if you want to go and you want to publish something, well, you put it out there through Image. They take a flat fee. IDW, they're the third largest in-house publisher, meaning they make their own projects. They saw a negative $7 million net earning, saying that they made nothing this year. They, in fact, lost $7 million. They took on $23 million in debt. It is an absolute disaster. When you look at the way that these sell, too, imagine if you don't want to buy a Marvel comic because you know it's garbage. How far down the line can you go? If people are not going in, first of all, to buy that big comic, they're not going to buy these. But if you're going in and only buying one or two comics, do you think that more people are going to go in and want to check out stuff, you know, when they're not interested anymore, or when going out and trying out something new costs them anywhere from $4 to $10? I mean, is that something that you truly want to invest in? And when you're talking about that next generation of people wanting to come and get involved in this, where are they going to go in? When you get video games that cost $60, or you're talking about buying, you know, 12 comics at a baseline for, you know, that, if you're talking about a $5 buy-in, well, it's getting pretty ugly out there. And what you're going to see, continued bad practice. I imagine we're going to see even more doubling down. We see different types of comics coming to the foreground, but you can't erase the way that these people act and interact. You can't erase the fact that people have seen this industry for what it is, and as they walk away, and they walk away loudly, and they tell other people, well, more people are not seeing this as viable. But anyhow, you tell me what you see in this. Tell me what you think about that. And again, you know, if you saw those early numbers, this is what I was telling you, that they were wrong. If you keep up with the year, you don't suddenly go from around a 1% increase to 3.3% when they were talking about comics. And when you were looking at the other numbers, there was no way in hell that this comic numbers would have come in as earnings over. And even if they did, look at how they managed to make money this year. If you scrape away the actual money that they added on, if you scrape away the fact that you have comics that cost 3 times the baseline, think how bad this market truly looks. But anyhow, like I say, tell me what you think. If you like this kind of content, please consider subbing, please consider subscribing, and hit that stinking bell. I hate that thing. Also, you know, leave comments. I love looking through them to see exactly what people think. Also, make sure that you catch new content, and above all, for sure, I appreciate you popping in. I appreciate seeing your lovely icons out there. We'll do this stuff again, and like I say, you know, I appreciate you being here because, well, for the longest time, it felt like we were all talking to the wind until basically we found outlets that said, hey, you know, we're not talking about this alone. But anyhow, tell me what you think. Thank you.